When Keanu Reeves walks into a trendy restaurant in downtown Los Angeles, it's not just another night out. The crowd inside the upscale eatery is buzzing with chatter, the clinking of glasses, and the soft hum of ambient music. The air is filled with an unmistakable energy, expectation. Keanu's presence, while unassuming, still carries a certain weight. He's the beloved actor, the humble legend, who has captured hearts through his roles and his personal ethos of kindness and simplicity. But on this night, as he steps through the door, something unexpected happens. The maitre d' freezes. He looks at Keanu for a split second, and then, without hesitation, he glances down at the reservation book. There's a brief moment of hesitation before the maitre d' clears his throat. "Sorry, sir," he says, his voice laced with the faintest trace of awkwardness. "We don't have a reservation for you." Keanu, unfazed by the comment, looks at him calmly. "I don't need a reservation," he replies. But the maitre d' remains unmoved. His eyes dart nervously around, clearly uncomfortable with the interaction. The restaurant is busy, and the table Keanu is seeking would be an important one that could turn away a lot of potential revenue. "I'm afraid we can't seat you without a reservation," he says again, more firmly this time. The room seems to hold its breath. The quiet murmur of conversation suddenly feels like a heavy silence. Keanu Reeves, denied service. The maitre d' doesn't know what to do. He stammers slightly, glancing at the host stand, then back at Keanu, as though he's trying to make a decision. Keanu stands perfectly still, a slight breeze of discomfort passing through the room. His expression, though, remains unchanged. He's used to the unexpected by now. He's Keanu Reeves, the man who's lived through media scrutiny, fame, and the wildest rumors. But tonight, this unexpected interaction, this feels different. The waiter behind the host stand is now nervously watching from a distance. The guests near the front of the restaurant begin to whisper, unsure of what's happening. Some recognize Keanu, others don't. But it's hard to ignore the mysterious aura surrounding the situation. The maitre d', now sweating, looks again at the reservation book, hoping for some sort of answer that might allow him to accommodate the actor. But Keanu Reeves, the man who's been nothing but kind to the world, seems completely calm, almost unaffected by the situation. What happens next will shock everyone. The maitre d' awkwardly fumbles with the reservation book, but Keanu doesn't seem bothered. His gaze remains steady, his calm unshaken. A few patrons have stopped talking, glancing over, unsure of whether to acknowledge the awkwardness or just keep their eyes glued to their menus. Keanu, ever the enigma, doesn't let the uncomfortable silence drag on. He does not raise his voice. He does not demand an explanation. Instead, he simply stands still, waiting. The maitre d' stands frozen, clearly not knowing how to resolve the situation. He shoots a quick glance toward a nearby manager, whose face looks as though it's been ripped from a page of indecision. And in that moment, Keanu Reeves, who could have easily escalated the situation, makes a choice that no one could have predicted. He smiles. It's subtle, quiet even. But there's a sense of quiet dignity in his gesture. He looks at the maitre d', still calm, still in control of the moment, even though he's the one being denied service. "It's okay," Keanu says with a slight chuckle. The maitre d' blinks in confusion, unsure of how to respond. He waits for more, perhaps an outburst, an explanation, something. But Keanu's gentle tone only deepens the mystery. Instead of getting angry or defensive, Keanu says simply, "I'll try somewhere else." But just as he turns to leave, the manager appears. The manager, clearly embarrassed by the situation, approaches Keanu with a sense of urgency. "Mr. Reeves," he begins, his voice filled with concern, "I'm terribly sorry for the confusion." Keanu stops in his tracks and turns back around. His face, as always, is unbothered, almost bafflingly calm. "No problem," Keanu replies, his voice warm but with a quiet strength to it. "Really, it's okay. but the manager insists, stepping closer with a bow of his head. "We've made a mistake," the manager continues, eyes darting to the maitre d', who looks like he might sink into the ground from the shame of the situation. "Please, we have a table ready for you." Keanu's expression softens, but he doesn't immediately accept the offer. Instead, he tilts his head and offers a quiet smile, the kind that has both disarmed and inspired millions over the years. Keanu, who could have easily demanded a seat or thrown a fit, instead quietly chooses his words. "I'm not upset." He pauses, his eyes scanning the room. "But maybe I should have had a reservation." The manager laughs awkwardly, unsure how to process the situation, and finally says, "Please, we insist." The situation has turned from one of embarrassment to one of diplomacy. Keanu, through his calm demeanor and unflappable nature, has created a shift. The room, still watching, now feels a sense of respect building in the air. The staff begins to relax, and in that moment, the restaurant feels like a much more honest place, a place where kindness and humility can go further than entitlement. Keanu doesn't argue. He doesn't push. He simply allows them to serve him, if only to restore the dignity of everyone involved. And with that decision, the tension that had once filled the room now starts to evaporate. The power dynamic has completely shifted. As Keanu walks back to his table, a subtle hush fills the air. The maitre d' quickly ushers him to a prime table near the window, the one that had previously been unavailable. The entire restaurant seems to collectively breathe out, the unease dissipating in the wake of Keanu's calm response. It's clear, Keanu Reeves is not your typical celebrity. His composure is something that not only commands respect, but also changes the atmosphere in a room. The staff, previously flustered, now moves with an air of quiet reverence, not just toward Keanu, but toward the situation itself. Graves, the restaurant manager, steps in again, this time with sincerity in his eyes. He approaches Keanu at the table, a slight nervousness still in his voice. "Mr. Reeves, I want to sincerely apologize for the misunderstanding," Graves says, his eyes fixed on the actor with both admiration and guilt. "It was entirely our fault, and I want to assure you that we'll make this right." Keanu looks up from the menu, meeting the manager's gaze. There's no anger in his eyes, only understanding. He nods gently. "It's really all right," Keanu says softly, his voice carrying a tone of calm reassurance. "I wasn't upset. It happens." There's a pause, a brief moment where the weight of Keanu's words lands. Graves, still uncomfortable, struggles to find the right words. "But you didn't. You didn't react the way I thought you would," Graves says, shaking his head, a slight chuckle escaping him. "I expected a scene, or at least some frustration. But you handled it differently." Keanu leans back in his chair, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. There's a stillness in him that seems to cut through the usual tension of a high-profile situation. "I didn't need to make a scene. You're only human," Keanu replies. "Mistakes happen. It's all part of the process." Graves is visibly taken aback by this response. It's not the typical reaction he's accustomed to from celebrities. There's no ego, no superiority, just a man with an immense sense of humility. And just like that, Keanu's influence spreads through the room. As Graves walks away, he looks back once more to see the other staff members observing, each of them beginning to grasp the true meaning of Keanu's actions. Not just a celebrity handling adversity with grace, but a human being treating everyone with respect. The evening proceeds, but it's clear that things are different now. The staff has transformed. They're more attentive, more respectful, but also more authentic in their approach to Keanu. There's no need to overcompensate with pleasantries or fake politeness. Keanu's natural presence has shifted the atmosphere. One by one, the staff comes to check on him. They don't hover, they don't make a spectacle of his presence. They simply provide excellent service as they would to any other guest, but with a quiet reverence that reflects the newfound understanding. Meanwhile, the guests seated around Keanu now aware of the scene that unfolded earlier, seem to start shifting their perception of him as well. They're more respectful, almost whispering among themselves, not out of awe, but out of respect for the kind of person Keanu seems to be. No one is gawking, no one is interrupting. They are aware of the power of his calm. And just as the night moves on, a shift in energy has taken place. The restaurant, once filled with the usual humdrum of dinner chatter, now feels like a space of quiet contemplation, as though the walls have absorbed the lesson taught by this simple exchange. The influence of Keanu's actions reverberates beyond the restaurant. Patrons feel it, staff feel it. The entire atmosphere has changed from one of discomfort and uncertainty to one of peace. The next day, the story begins to leak out to the public like the ripple of a stone dropped into a calm lake. It starts as a casual mention in a celebrity gossip column, but by the afternoon, the internet is buzzing. Social media explodes with reactions, many sharing their own thoughts on what happened the previous night. Some ask why such a humble actor was denied service at all. Others debate the nature of hospitality and the role celebrities should play in society. But amidst the online chatter, one thing becomes crystal clear. Keanu's response has captured the hearts of millions. People share stories of times they've been wronged, of times they've seen others lash out in frustration. Keanu's reaction becomes more than just an isolated event. It becomes a lesson on grace, on how to handle life's inevitable discomforts with humility and self-respect. It's the kind of moment that gets analyzed in tweets, reaction videos, and discussions for days after. The kind of moment that reminds people why Keanu Reeves is not just loved for his roles on screen, but for the man he is off-screen. In the sea of viral moments and headlines designed to shock, Keanu's understated act of kindness and humility stands in stark contrast. His decision to walk away quietly, without anger, without embarrassment, is something that the world needed to see. As the days go by, the restaurant staff continue to reflect on what they've witnessed. For the employees who were initially part of the awkward interaction, the event has become more than just a story to share among themselves. It's a turning point in how they treat every guest who walks through the door. Graves, in particular, cannot stop thinking about it. As the days pass, he begins to talk about Keanu's actions with other restaurant managers. He shares the impact of Keanu's calm demeanor, not just as a story, but as a philosophy. "It's not about how people treat you when you're at your best," Graves says in one conversation, his tone changing. "It's about how they treat you when you're not getting what you want, when things go wrong." And that's where Keanu shone. He didn't demand respect, he earned it. Keanu leaves the restaurant for good that evening, but he leaves something far more lasting behind than just a tip or a memorable dining experience. What he leaves is a lesson in grace, in understanding, and in the power of quiet strength. By the time he exits the front door, the restaurant has already changed, not because of the celebrities or the power plays, but because Keanu Reeves reminded everyone in that room that kindness is always the right choice. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit subscribe. Stay tuned for more incredible moments of humanity and grace under pressure, because tomorrow we have another special story just for you.